What's up guys, welcome to Damai Scaling YouTube channel. I'm your host Eddie Wang, and today I want to talk about why is Jin considered one of the most difficult characters to play in the game, and so we are going to touch in some of his main gripes. But before we start, if you have been following around the community topics, Area recently put out a list of which characters are the hardest to play, and that list goes from extremely spicy to the mild class, right? And Jin is on the second tier of the most hardest characters to play, which is very spicy, so he is very hard. But the My Man actually broke down that list as well, and he puts Jin one tier higher, and he lowers down Xiao Yu a little bit, meaning Jin is harder than Devil Jin to play. But I'm going to explain you why he put that in a category of why he said that, right? And also what makes Jin like very hard to play on season 4. So if you guys aren't coming from season 1 and season 2, Jin was always hard, but before season 2 it was labeled like a intermediate level, where you can go to the extreme when you start to add like the execution of stuff, right? Because Jin, to have a safe launcher, he has to electric, and his electric alone has to be just frame every single time. Every single time Jin misses out a just frame electric, it doesn't get a launcher, and actually can get punishable at -10. So it's such a big deal to have just frame electric. So his electric is already harder than the Mishima's one, because not only they recover faster, but they can launch without actually being electric. It's only going to be bad in recovery, and is going to be punishable as well. But when they really just frame it, it's hella scary, right? You guys know about that. Jin has that property, but is electric on paper or just by default is actually worse, because recovery it's already worse than the Mishima's one, and that is just point 1. And back in season 1 and season 2, another thing that Jin had that was extremely difficult to get, and you really had to work your ass out to make it work, was to have a micro dash. So if you wanted to do like really good damage with Jin, you needed to have micro dash, because the electrics would have to come in play, and when they did, oh boy, if you didn't have micro dash, the damage wasn't really that great. It was around 62, but with the micro dash he could get to 70 damage without walls, up to 93 damage with a wall. It used to be one of the most highest damage from a combo in the game. It was around easily the top 10, easily. It was really great. Every character that could do 90 damage with a wall was insane, and Jin could do 93 to 96 damage with some really good execution. So having micro dash was a really big deal. But he also had some really nice things. For example, his low, his down back 4, used to be a pumpable launcher. So power crashes weren't really much scary against Jin, because at any point he could just use a down back 4 and actually launch you for it. And it was really scary to press buttons when Jin was doing a forward 4 or a down back 4, because conversion was always guaranteed with this character. So on top of having all that, in season 2 they gave him a conversion on standing 4. This move that you guys are seeing, this move used to be hella scary, and it wasn't exactly a magic 4. I still don't consider this a magic 4, because it's 13 frames. It's 2 frames lower than a magic 4, and the recovery is actually worse than a magic 4, but it's a homing 4, right? And in season 3, season 2, actually this recovered a little bit faster, so it was difficult to punish. But it was a move that if your opponent was so eager to press buttons and you had a read on the timing, then they would actually have to get ready to get their head smashed with a kick. That animation was priceless, and it still hurts today to see it gone, because every single time you kick at someone in the head with Jin, it felt really good. It was like a warning sign. Don't mash against Jin without thinking that nothing would happen in return. Sure, he was slow, but if he had a good read in that standing 4, it would hurt like hell. Animation wise, it was really scary to press a button when Jin had that standing 4. Now it still kind of feels the same purpose, but the animation is a little bit ugly, and this kick now launches characters off axis, as you guys are seeing. Now A is off axis in comparison to where he was starting against Jin in this case. So it's a move that was nerfed in season 4. And the low was taken away on season 3. So this started to make Jin a little bit harder to play because his conversion game started to get worse from season 3, right? If you are here since season 1, you know what I'm talking about. Forward 4 having a pushback, now it's an executionable move. It requires a lot of technicality to land this combo. And if you guys remember, season 1 and season 2 has divided Jin in 2 different categories, right? The micro dash Jins, which are the one that if you had to do an electric combo, you needed to know how to micro dash to get a decent wall splat. And there were some people that weren't really okay with it, and they didn't bother to learn micro dash back then. So they could still do wall splat, but the damage was always lower than optimal, right? So what Namco did is they reverted the roles. So the electric combos now don't need micro dash because you can do any combo with Jin with electric and just do back 3 forward Zen 1-3, and you will always going to get a conversion. Of course, the wall combo can be worse if you don't have the micro dash because there are situations on screen where you won't actually get that conversion and you won't get the combo right. You have to know the micro dash still, but it's optional, right? It's not like mandatory like it used to be, at least for the electric combo. But where the micro dash plays a huge role now in season 3 and season 4 is on the counter hit forward 4 combo, because this is such a technical tool for Jin, and it's a tool for social distancing, as some members like to call it in the channel. So if you want to have that safety, that space control with forward 4, then the micro dash is gonna have to come in play, and I don't think that you can do this well on a 3 bar. I actually never tried to do the combo on a 3 bar setting, but on a 4 bar and 5 bar you have to try to do a counter hit 4-4 without Zen and go into the micro dash back to 1. So now you have to micro dash there to get the combo 100% of the time in conversion all the time. If you don't have that skill, it's still a skill that of course you can go to Zen, but Zen is going to expose Jin a lot more into pressure, and you don't really want to do that. So it's one of the main gripes of Jin, but that one can be overcome if you actually practice the combo all the time. I spent the last month, ever since I started playing online again, spent the last month actually relearning this combo, practicing with every stick that I have in my house. I practiced with my flash and the Ori. First I started to do it well with the Ori on both sides, but now I play constantly on the my flash, and while the stick is a little bit looser on the sides, but I still get to do this combo pretty often now actually, compared to where I started doing this combo. Now I can do this in one try. If you guys remember on season 3, this was almost like luck stuff, right? But the conversion actually paid off, and the micro dash is the secret to get this combo going. When you get to the back to 1 part, you have to micro dash into back to 1. So they switch it up with the electric combo into the forward 4 combo, so this way the legend is still lives, right? But this isn't really all that it comes down to Jin. This is just past tense. So what makes Jin so difficult to play? The main gripes is execution is point number 1, right? Point number 1, Jin has to be on point every single time because of just frames, micro dashes. It's something that he just has to do to play at the highest level possible and to be good with the character. This is one of his main gripes. It's okay. The second one, which is a little bit more character weaknesses actually, is that Jin Rich is very poor. If you guys know, Downfall 1 doesn't have the greatest reach, it doesn't have the greatest tracking as well. His downfall is pretty bad, but it actually gets the job done. Sometimes if people are too eager to start pressure, then downfall makes it work. His upkick has shit range, his electric has shit range, and also a huge recovery. His forward 4, some people say that this move is evil, actually is the devil itself. It's annoying, but this move will only really get into your head if you are trying to play 2D with Jin, because if Jin whiff is like, for example, standing 4, right? If he whiff is standing 4 and forward 4, these moves usually get him killed if it whips. So if a Jin player throws out forward 4 and he's counter hitting with it, doing combos, he actually got something down for you, either your timing of movement or something like that. It actually got you down. But the reach is the second biggest problem of Jin, specifically on his left leg, because everything that he puts out with the left leg has shorter reach, except of course if it's like from stance, like because Zen 3 has the longest range that Jin has on the left leg is Zen 3. But there is also another main gripe, which is what I'm going to cover. The last two gripes that Jin has. One is that it doesn't really have a good mid option outside of back to 1. Back to 1 is good, but when you are playing Ultra in Tekken and you really want to space out against other characters, the back to 1, the last hit specifically, has an unbelievable short range and it tends to whiff all the time. And has you play higher level players, people that really is used to play Tekken, I'm not talking about green ranks, I'm not talking about yellow ranks, I'm actually just climbing up. I'm almost at orange ranks already. Maybe one more rank and I will be in orange ranks. But the harder the game gets for you, the better opponents you get. If you whiff a back to 1, you are going to die, and that move tends to whiff a lot, so it's really terrible in neutral, despite being safe and Jin of course losing his turn. So when you are put under that choice, sometimes you're gonna have to use something better, right? And something better should be down forward 1-4, but this move was buffed and nerfed at the same time in many cases. And if you guys don't, maybe you guys didn't play Jin in Tekken 6 or Tekken Tag 2, but allow me to explain real quick. In Tekken 6, Jin down forward 1-4 wasn't like this. It was, you guys remember 2-1-4, so the last kick of 2-1-4 used to be what it came after you press 4 after a down forward 1. So the last two hits, right? The last two hits of this string is what it was, the down forward 1-4, and that was safe. I believe it was -7 if not mistaken, and it was a safe mid option that Jin had that would immediately shut down people that were constantly ducking pressure from Jin in Tekken 6. It was just like that. If you duck at Jin in Tekken 6, it would harass you all day with down forward 1-4. So you couldn't really duck Jin, and sometimes you couldn't even interrupt Jin because the down forward 1 alone was really scary to challenge, because down forward 1-4 was safe, right? But in Tag 2, they actually buffed this move and nerfed it at the same time. Why nerfed? Because they actually took out the follow-up version that was safe and added a high one that used to do a knockdown on normal hit. So Jin at 13 frame in Tekken Tag 2 used to get Oki every single time it was at +13. So if he connected this on regular hit, this was immediately a knockdown. And while these days in Tekken 7 this was nerfed, but in in Tekken Tag 2, you guys know that this was a knockdown, and it's something that he only gets now on a counter hit, right? And even now, it's not really much of a big deal either, because in Tekken 7, Jin doesn't have okizeme, and it's also one of his main gripes. So how does these two last gripes of Jin hurt the character together, right? So for starters, people in Tekken 7 duck Jin pretty often, like very often, because it doesn't really have that mid option that is going to scare them to death. Like if you hit a down forward one, either people are going to challenge or are going to duck. But the follow up is always duckable on reaction, right? And some people tend to preemptively try to duck it. And if they try to challenge, of course, you can do a down four, but it isn't really a rocket science. Either you do a down forward one and you step or backdash. But if you try to do a follow up to interrupt people from retaliating, it's going to get ducked and launched. Or you try to do a down forward one into a down four, right, to force them to stay there. Actually, they can really just block low and hit you with anything else and react to the down forward one for this option right here, which is a launch that is -12. It used to be safe, but it was made -12 as well on season 2, but this isn't really much of a big deal. But the ducking against Jin is annoying, and when you get a knockdown in Tekken 7, this is something that has been hunting Jin since vanilla Tekken 7. It doesn't have Oki. The best that Jin gets every single time someone is on the ground, it's a down 4. A down 4. There is no reason to actually stand against Jin. Sometimes you can take a down 2 and really just roll up at distance and safely wake up. And sometimes Jin is going to be so scared to attack you on the ground, because the button that you're going to press will actually land as a counter hit because of that. It's really one of the biggest problems of this character in Tekken 7. It wasn't really on vanilla because 4-4 used to hit grounded and used to patch that, but it gave him a 50-50 as well. But ever since they took out okizeme from Jin, it's one of the positions where in Tekken Jin really lacks, and it's really troublesome for him. You get someone on the ground, you don't know what you're going to do. Of course, there is a bunch of guides. We actually researched every single option that Jin has in okizeme. There is a video out there from the Damage Scaling YouTube channel on okizeme, but even that video tells you that Jin is really not strong in okizeme. And while that video is really great at explaining the options that Jin has in okizeme, okizeme is really not the strongest suit of Jin. So on top of, you have to know what tool you're gonna have to use with Jin, and sometimes it's really hard to grasp on what tools you're gonna have to use with Jin as well. So you're gonna have to lab your options, specifically if someone keep ducking on you pretty often. So today I'm going to show you one more thing before we close out this video, which I think is already rather long, but since the microphone is new and my voice is actually great, I really hope that you guys stick out to this point and actually get to see this. So I'm going to explain one of the Jin main buffs and why it's so important that you put this on your arsenal. And you guys remember on season 4 they gave Jin more damage on back forward to 1, right? And this does 29 damage. This used to be 25, but now is 29. And if you land 2 of these, it's 58, and 3 now is 87. So if people that duck Jin pretty often and you land this 3 times, you just did a combo with a wall technically. So it's really good, and this is still +6, so the opponent cannot really just interact because they're gonna get pressured by 2-1. You can also load, go for a 50-50. You cannot really just forward 4. And another thing is, if the second hit connects as a counter hit, then this move is +9 and it's going to do more damage on counter hit, of course, obviously 32. So really good stuff. But when this connects as a counter hit, The third hit, right, which launches, it's guaranteed. Actually, I guess I broke this down on the beginning of season 4, but today I'm going to show you something. Alright, so I just set it up Heihachi here to deal with something that sometimes we as Jin mains like to do it, and we do that to breathe, right? Because some people like to press too many buttons, and then we're going to check them with evil intent. Remember that this is not laser cannon, and as it's really not laser cannon, it's safer, and the last hit is -5 if it gets watered, right? You guys know that this is safe if it gets watered, it's -5, and the launching option it's -14. But if you set up, for example, a character that has a jab reversal, like for example Heihachi, in this case, is a character that Jin cannot finish strings because he has access to a parry, right? And he has a punch parry that is going to destroy Jin just for trying to actually do something with it. So it really sucks sometimes, and you can really not use that, but obviously you can bait it. For example, if Heihachi tries again, then you get to do like this, or you get to, for example, launch Heihachi for it, right? But you can also do this, and this is something that I wasn't really expecting. But with this new extension, Jin gets to launch Heihachi for try to punch parry him on reaction or on read, right? Because he has to read, and when you put that out there, of course, Heihachi can still down forward 1 to you if he block it, but it's going to put him in question if he really wants to interrupt that string, right? And this is one of the things that Jin is able to do in order to overcome. But what I meant with him being able to do this now when this stacks damage, it's because when you do that and to this and people start to block in the lows or try to really just duck in, then you can start to mix this with back forward to 1. Why is that? Because this is 16 frames, right? And many people tend to duck after they get hit by a down 4, right? So then you check with back forward to 1 that it's a safe string. It's actually a string that reminds of Tekken 4 Jin, right? Because Tekken 4 Jin was all about the laser cannon. So this is a bit similar but safer. But now that it does more damage, you actually get to try out like throws against the opponent, loop the back forward to 1. You can even launch if they are trying to duck multiple of this one. It's really good, right? And sometimes we forget that we have tools for this situation. For example, if they are ducking and blocking this, right, the mid check, and are trying to duck the mid check, right, or the high check, because this is safe. And sometimes you mix up with low or with a side step, or you want to backdash. But you can actually check this with back forward to 1, just as you would do with a down 4. So it really changes the perspective of things. And if you want more damage but it's going to take more risk, it's going into back forward to 3, obviously. And if your opponent is really pushy in the buttons, then you can delay this, because the second hit it's a counter hit launch, right? And this is going to make up for the lack, for example, of him having a mid extension in down forward 1, because he has the I1, which is safe. So you can make like a mid safe with this, or you can go obviously with back forward to 3, or you can really just do this, or you can really just go into that. So this is what is going to make Jin like really annoying to deal against duckers. You can even dash into back forward to 1. It's okay, it's really good, but knowing the tools, it's only half of the way. You have to explore how you can how you can utilize this in ways that you never realized before. When I said in the beginning of season 4, with back forward to 1, that's because Jin now has a launcher that if he connects on counter hit, as I said, then the other hit is it's guaranteed. So this is not just with, right? So but when you get to down forward 1 checks, if you check if they are ducking too often, then it's time to start using your evil intent to prevent people to actually try to duck Jin. And of course they can still duck the second hit, but normally no one does that, and Jin still has the back forward to 3, which is delayable as hell, right? So no one can really just duck Jin after they block back forward too, right? It's one of those reasons as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this video despite being long. See you guys on the next week.